Fuzzle.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric,
And I'm Sean.
and we're Fuzzle. Welcome to episode 4 of the Fuzzlecast. Tonight we're sitting down with our friend JP Cordero, photographer extraordinaire and South Bay denizen. He is all over the music scene, so we can't wait for you to check out our conversation with him and learn a little bit about where he's coming from and where he's headed. Enjoy.
And we're here with JP Cordero.
Good evening, friends.
Good to see you, JP.
Thanks
Good
for
to see
joining.
Yeah, so we wanted to have you on the pod because you're one of my longtime friends. We went to school together, Maricosta and South Bay aficionado. You're well known in the area of my locale, and you're also a pretty well known and getting more known photographer. So we wanted to get your story and hear what you've all been about.
Yeah, well, hey man, I'm a photographer. Thanks for the nice intro. What do you want to know?
Well, let us know how you first got interested, when you first got the bug. Was that early on in school, middle school, high school?
I don't know. In school, I was kind of a jock. I was a wrestler, so I spent a lot of time, sweating and, wrestling around and being a tough guy. It probably wasn't
Uh-huh.
until after high school that I started getting more and more into cameras. Um, I started I forgot when I got my first digital camera, but we were always playing with film cameras. I never even took a photography class in high school or in college or anything. I just one day I picked up a camera and it was like one of those cheap Nikon digital cameras, very first generation. And I started shooting and I started saying, "Oh, hey, I want to do some motion lights." And I figured out, "Oh, that camera can't do that." So probably around 2003, 2004, I bought my first DSLR camera, a digital single lens reflex, and that was a Nikon as well. And then I learned how to do open shutter, long shutter, and then start shooting on manual, which changed the whole world of photography for me. So that's kind of how that started. I was lucky enough to go on a study abroad in New Zealand with one of my geography teachers. I ended up getting a degree in geography. So this guy, we went to New Zealand, and he's a photographer as well. So my ultimate goal was to be like a National Geographic travel photographer. I spent a lot of time doing that, and I really loved it. But then I started seeing how I could, make money shooting events and being around people and being around music. And that ultimately kept pushing me towards the music. I've always loved music and starting to photograph musicians. And eventually now I do videography as well. It's really close to my heart.
I've seen how a lot of your photography integrates kind of all those, bits of the trade where, you get a lot of good scenic views, but you also mix those with your music shots. So I think, yeah, you've got like a signature of your photography, I think.
Yeah, I try to find, I think one of the best compliments I ever get from people is, "Oh wow, you really get a different angle." And I think that's what I really strive for, is trying to see something differently than other people. I've always felt like kind of an outsider. I'm always on my own path and looking at things in a different way. And I find that a lot of times people don't kind of understand where I'm coming from. So when I show them an image, they can kind of see what I'm seeing. And that's kind of my connection to the world, I think.
Hmm. Now, when you were in New Zealand, were you doing things like National Geographic style photos? Were you filming animals? What were you doing out there?
Yeah, well, New Zealand, there's no mammals native to New Zealand. There's only birds.
Oh.
So, I photographed kiwis. It's that little bird, the kiwi. That's why they call New Zealanders kiwis.
Hmm.
We traveled from the bottom of the South Island where I photographed gray whales and dolphins and the islands themselves, to the North Island where there's volcanoes and more like native people, the Maoris, which are akin to native Hawaiians. They actually call each other cousins. So, through traveling through both islands all the way up north, I definitely captured a lot of, there's architecture, there's people and culture, which is more of a street photography thing. There's natural, going to parks and shooting, beautiful vistas and panoramas. And then there's animals, and one of the big things that I've always been into is food. So I
Hmm.
wasn't quite shooting. The only music I shot when I was there was like the Maori dances and stuff. But I shot food, and I started gravitating towards food as well. So food and music is like, I don't even know how to tell you how exciting I get. It
Well,
makes
I
me,
always knew you gravitated towards food.
yeah, I'm a big guy.
Um, but yeah, so I think that yeah, the food is also one of the huge things that you're known for. I mean, you've got a whole Instagram dedicated to it, right?
Yeah, for years I was building this Instagram called Foodie in the Bubble where I just would shoot food. I think one of the cool things I figured out is I can go to any restaurant and not pay for food because I can show them photos I've taken, and when you show up at the camera, people are happy to have you
Hmm.
take photos of their food. Um, yeah, so after doing years of that Instagram influencer stuff, um, I started soliciting restaurants. Hey, look at my Instagram. I shot this item for you X amount of months ago, and do you guys need me to photograph food, monthly for you or weekly for you? And people said yes. And then I built this whole business off shooting food for restaurants. And that was like bread and butter for the longest time. And even before that, and I may have skipped over this, I thought that shooting weddings would be the funnest thing. People talk about, you know, oh, you could make so much money shooting weddings. What a great job that would be. And I really liked it for the time that I did it. I did it for about 10 years, shot hundreds of weddings, hundreds. And I had so much fun doing that. But at a certain point, it gets to where I need to move on and do something different. And my
Hmm.
wife and I both worked together shooting weddings, and then we would hire other photographers to help along as well. But I really needed to move on, so I kind of concurrently was doing the food and the restaurants and the weddings. But once COVID hit, weddings were done, so they all my weddings
Hmm.
canceled, and we had to have a new strategy. So I just really pressed that button for shooting restaurants, and it picked up. The restaurants needed photography because now everybody wanted to be on DoorDash and they wanted to be on Uber delivery and all these different platforms, and they needed good photos. So I went around and I did the same thing again, but this time I said, "Hey, you need these photos so people over the internet can see your food and I can show it to them in a beautiful way." So that really helped out.
Well, I was also thinking there is a period of time, maybe in 2016, where you were shooting some photos for my old band, Black Lagoon. And had you been doing a lot of band photography way before that, or is that kind of when you started dipping your feet into it?
No, that's funny that you asked that. It's I can go off on all these different roads of photography that I was doing basically at the same time. Shooting food, shooting weddings, shooting events, shooting for magazines, shooting for the newspaper. This is all constant, reoccurring stuff for me. And my real passion projects were shooting live music because, Black Lagoon didn't have a budget for a photographer, but I was just happy to shoot it because
Hmm.
I love music so much. I've always been envious of the musician, and I remember Sean back in high school, he could pick up a guitar and he could play anything. And I thought that was one of the coolest things. So just being
Thanks.
around musicians is, very gratifying for me. And I love music. And I was shooting lots of bands. I would go to any concert I could and bring the camera and just shoot for free because I didn't care. They were still doing the Hermosa concerts on the beach at that point, and I would shoot those. And they said, "Oh, well, we don't have a budget because this is a free concert." But I'd say, "Hey, just give me all access and let me go wherever I want, and I'll get really cool photos." And that's kind of like what got me into the bigger events. And that same company is turned into Beach Life Festival. So they were doing their concerts on the beach for free for Hermosa Beach, and Hermosa Beach made things difficult. And he said, "Well, hey, I'm going to go to Redondo and I'm going to throw a real festival. And we're going to bring these big bands and we're going to just do something nobody's ever done in the South Bay before." And that's where I am now.
So I was going to ask, just going back to the music thing, what are some of your earliest concert memories, like from either your first concert or some early memories of live music?
Live music. So the first memory of live music, I was lucky enough to go to Lollapalooza in 1994. And at that point, I was 12 years old. It was my first concert. It was at
Was that the first Lollapalooza?
I think, no, I don't know when it came out, when it started.
Yeah.
But that was the first concert that I went to. Like, not even like a little concert. I went to a freaking festival.
Yeah.
And, I saw Sonic Youth and Hole and Garbage and Elastica and so many bands.
Such a slice of the 90s.
It blew my mind. Yeah, it was definitely a slice of the 90s.
And it's all
Cypress Hill. Well, it's funny because now we're hiring all those same bands for Beach Life Festival, all those 90s bands.
That's rad.
I was just at Art Alexakis' studio the other day doing an interview with him for, amazing, man. I've never seen a collection of guitars quite like his.
Everclear, right?
Yep, Everclear.
Yeah.
And let me guess, it's
awesome.
in Santa Monica, probably.
You'd think so, right? No, he has moved a little more north. He's in Pasadena now.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So, but he's like, "Hey, man, I live 5 minutes down the road from here." So it's pretty cool. He's right by his studio, and it was just all guitars and computer and recording equipment. So it's pretty cool.
I remember seeing them. You photographed them, what, 3 or 4 years ago when it was the concerts on the beach or something?
Yeah, that was the first time I photographed Everclear.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, that was kind of like a wow moment for me. 4 years ago. No, I think it was like
more.
8 years ago now.
I have a bad sense of time.
Time has been moving.
Oh, yeah, don't remind us. You have come, I mean, just in 8 years, because I remember that being a point that I really remembered seeing you like shooting some big bands, and like that's when it really stood out to me. So you've been doing that for about consistently that long, and now Beach Life is this, big pinnacle like project.
Yeah, so recently I had in the past 3 years, we're on our third festival now. Well, it would be fourth festival, but we have one canceled festival due to COVID. So there was the 2020 festival, I believe, was canceled. So the first festival I was hired in as, just a regular contract photographer. And, at that point, nobody let me into the photo pit, and I couldn't get stage access. And I told the guy, I said, "Look, I'm watching your other photographers. I know what they're doing, and I don't like what they're doing. And if you trust me, I'm going to do better." And they did trust me, and they gave me a better access. And I started taking great photos, and I had some pretty iconic photos that they've used all across, all media. If you look at the press kits they send out, it's just stacked with my photos and imagery.
There's a really beautiful photo that I think anybody who's been to Beach Life Festival, been to their Instagram or seen anything about it in the paper, they've seen. It's the one with the sunset with Willie Nelson playing, and the sun is just lit up like crimson, pink, and violet. It's just one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen.
And we're gonna flash it on the screen right here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That
Lovely.
was a very lucky capture. The what was happening, what was interesting. So the story behind that was Willie Nelson's on stage and he's playing Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. You guys are the
Hmm.
singers, not me.
Hmm.
And the sun was going down and I'm looking up at the sky and you see it. It's like these purples and oranges and yellows. Everything's just exploding. There's a fire in the sky. And the clouds were just layered perfectly. And I said, okay, I need to capture this. I ran upstairs to the cabanas that had a overlooking view over the whole high tide stage and the harbor and the sunset. And I just put my camera on the edge and I didn't have a tripod and I just started shooting that sunset. And, I stacked up, I think, 5 photos to get that rich color. Um, and it's definitely a photo that helped propel me forward with my business into this industry. And then
Hmm.
the next beach life came along, and that was actually in September. Um, and this time they said, "Hey JP, can you actually hire all our photographers for us?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll contract all the photographers." And that worked out really well, and we all did a great job. And I know some great South Bay photographers. So that all worked out, and then they said, "Oh, hey JP, can you actually become our director of media?" And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I think I can do that. And at that
Hmm.
point, I felt like an imposter for the past, X amount of months because I'm like, how is this guy,
Hmm.
they're going to let me do something so important? Now I'm making videos, I'm writing storylines, I'm shooting, every day. I'm traveling around. I'm talking to all these musicians. Um, you know, we're planning a Sugar Ray brunch, and I'm dealing with Mark McGrath's team, and we're going back and forth, coming up with ideas, and that's just an example of how cool it is for me because growing up, stuff like Sugar Ray, who would have ever thought I'd know the guy? He knows me by name, and we're like buddy buddy. So it's definitely a blessing and a gift and a lot of luck.
Yeah, I can see it. You're in your element for sure.
Yeah, it's super fun.
So we also we have experience with you in Fuzzle because you actually shot one of our music videos, Outer Stellar, which was a do-it-yourself endeavor to try to make a big, epic science fiction, I guess, kind of trailer music video. It's kind of a mix of the two, but we just wanted to give a feel of just like a big science fiction epic, and you helped us get some shots for that. That was really cool. How did you I mean, when you heard me calling you to do that, was that something that you jumped at, or were you kind of like, I've got some bigger stuff on the pot right now. I might want to go mess with beach life a little more.
No, I'm always happy to help, especially friends. When you showed me the concept of what you wanted to do, I was definitely interested. I'm a huge science fiction fan. I consume sci-fi like water.
Hmm.
So I thought it was a really cool concept, and from the initial shots that Eric did on his own, I just wanted to kind of clone that style. And I think we did a pretty fair job of getting across the same message he was doing. Um, al-
Absolutely, yeah.
Albeit I say my camera work was better, but
I agree. You knocked it out of the
Uh,
park, man. It looked amazing. It was
yeah,
like we talked about it, about the ideas, and we were discussing it, and it was like when I actually saw the footage come in, like it, my brain exploded. I couldn't even believe it. Like it just was better than I ever could have even imagined. It makes, the editing process so easy when you're handed footage that looks that good. So it was awesome, and super grateful for your help with that.
thank you. And how long ago was that? That was
Geez, that was last summer, but like I
yeah,
don't know. We've lost
July,
track
I
of
think.
time.
July
And that
2021.
Yeah, and that was our first music video, so I felt like we came out pretty strong with the a visually distinct kind of a strong visual statement, which was really really awesome. Super
Hmm.
proud of that.
And we'll link that music video in the description below as well, so you guys can check it out.
Link down here.
Yeah. And we wanted to just say thanks for coming on, JP. Out of all the people that I know that I've known growing up with, I think you're one of my, oldest friends and truest friends. And I think that a lot of people in this area know the type of guy you are, the stand-up guy, and the great photog that you are. And I think you're well integrated and knitted into the fabric of this community of the South Bay. So. We're just happy to have you on, and thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. It was great being on your show, the Fuzzlecast. Good stuff.
All right, everybody. Well, that's JP and a little look into his musical photography life.
Quick shout out to Beach Life Festival, May 13th through 15th in Redondo Beach. Don't miss it.
And once again, we are Fuzzle, and we are